Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to another game, another day. It's been I guess it's been a quiet 24 hours, right? Not much has been going on. Not much happening at all. Um yeah, nothing much to speak about. No drama in the United community. Nothing new to get angry about after a win. Nothing like that. Nothing new to happen this week. After a weekend of interesting results. It's been very quiet, nothing to say. So I guess we just get to talk about football instead of all the bullshit, right? Because there's nothing to talk about. Another day supporting Manchester United. Just one normal day. Will never happen. Will never happen. It's my favorite quotes from Conte there. One normal day. Will never happen. Will never happen. It's pretty funny. But that's United. It's been like this forever. There's always something. There's always something. I do want to talk about the dreadful youth comments. I do want to talk about those a little bit. I do. I do want to talk about the youth comments. I want to talk about the 4-3-3. It's been a funny day, honestly. But seriously, like my wife has the flu and was up kind of up all night. I was up all night because she was coughing and sick and all of that kind of stuff all night. It was my son's party yesterday. He was sick. She was sick the other day. I've been awake for I've gotten like 3 hours of sleep this whole weekend. I'm very tired. I'm very tired. So I'm liable to be not very angry at the moment because what would I do?
Drama FM man, smiley face emoji.
For sure, drama all the time. So I'm liable to not be angry with that because I can't get mad about things too much at the moment without cause. During the game, the exact opposite can very much happen. I could get very angry very fast. So we'll see later. But for now, I'm just exhausted. But yeah, I do want to address all of this. I'm just slightly past the point of being able to be riled up too much at the moment. I'm okay, fortunately. I haven't caught it, but it's going around the schools, like everywhere. It's nuts. It's wild, actually, where it all is. In the with the flu and stuff this season, it's absolutely crazy. Like, it's crazy. So many people sick. The school where my son goes to, they had like 70 or 80 kids missing from the flu, which is nuts, and like half the staff, and it's been crazy. So anyway, I haven't been able to dedicate much time to overthinking things too much at the moment. But yeah, look, let's first, before the lineups come, let's talk about these sort of academy comments a little bit, okay? First and foremost, like I've sort of got to them. I've sort of got a little time to review them. I've sort of got a little bit, and there's two things that I want to say. Well, there's a bunch of things I want to say. Forget putting a limiter on two because I have no idea how many things I'm going to say about this. But first, I will say this. I learned one thing in summer that was really big, which was when I remember sitting in the room. It was in Soldier Field, and I was sitting there in the press conference before, I think, Bournemouth. And I was sitting in a press room. You can find me on the cameras if you go back then to watch the MUTV coverage of the press conference. But I was sitting in there and I listened to the entire press conference. And I remember thinking, yeah, all right, cool, fair enough. And then I remember getting out of the room and going on Twitter, and I was like, what the fuck? It was mind-blowing to see just how different things are taken when you're sitting in a room listening to somebody with all the context, the questions, everything, than just the answers clipped up, posted in bites online. That's first and foremost. Every single week this happens. Every single week this happens, right? Quotes come out, get angry, people get angry about something, fine. Second thing is, I don't think Amram was necessarily said much bad. He certainly didn't say anything wrong. Like, what he said was true. He didn't say much by way of bad. I don't think he was really said much in general that was particularly crazy. But at the same time, I also very much understand why some people would be bothered by it. I just would say, I don't know. It's up to you if it's something you want to be bothered by or not. That's you're totally welcome to have that view of being bothered by it. Me, I'm not. Personally, I'm not, because I tend to prefer blunt honesty over anything else. If you're bothered by it, okay, that's fair. Amash isn't struggling, though. I mean, now it's clearly in translation. He's talking about Sheffield Wednesday being at the bottom of the second tier and heading towards relegation. So that's clearly lost in translation. It was the same thing last week. There was I think when he was talking about Patrick Dorgu's confidence, and he said Dalot and Dorgu aren't the best. And he was saying he weren't at their best right now. But regardless, because he's very direct about what he says, probably shouldn't be saying certain things. Doesn't really help the matter. Obviously, the purpose of a lot of the journalists asking the questions is trying to bait out an answer that they can run with that ends up looking a lot worse than it is. That's for sure. I think it's mostly small missteps. Yeah, I think it's mostly missteps in what he says in Portuguese, especially whenever he uses the words suffering and struggling, because they mean different things within that context. But regardless, in general, he's not talking behind anybody's back. He's not talking behind anybody's back. Answering questions in a press conference is not talking behind people's back. That's a very weird way to take that. So yeah, it's like, okay, whatever. I get that it bothers people. At the same time, I don't know. I think what I've learned about it, the journalists never brought up the names of youth players. No. They've just spent the last 6 weeks, like everybody else has, screaming and screeching that Amram doesn't play youth, and then he brings up the examples of the players that he has played, right? It's kind of that simple. That's where I think it's very, very hypocritical of a lot of people in the way that they're reacting to it. I think it's very hypocritical, the way that people are reacting to it, because people have been crying and screaming about him not playing youth and asking questions about it in every single press conference. And then when he mentions the youth he did play, and that we were still losing games, which was the point, essentially, then it's crying and screaming that he's talking about the youth players. He debuted 3 players last year. Okay, fair enough. That being said as well, yeah, he uses suffering and struggling a lot to describe pretty much everything. Struggling doesn't mean he's doing poorly. Struggling means he is what he is. So that's where I think it's sort of, because people will say, like, you know, it is funny. Like I've said before, the whole conversation is funny, because people will say, play the youth, but then he played the youth last year. He played young players last year. He debuted quite a few. It didn't really help us. We didn't win more games. He played Fredrickson against Grimsby this year, and he got destroyed. He got destroyed, but and we haven't seen him since, and we got knocked out of the cup, but so what? Okay. What he was saying was he played them last year and people still wanted him fired. So it's not about, he uses struggling when he means like fighting. You know what I mean? Like fighting is generally what when he says struggling. But yeah, that was all his comments were. Do I think they're probably naive in the fact that he does tend to comment on things maybe that he should just not answer at all? Yep, for sure. Probably. I mean, he probably shouldn't comment on things sometimes. We saw this last year. People baited the Rashford comments over and over and over and over and over and over last year, and then got mad when he was responding to them. He probably should. I would sit and say to the club, I've said in the past, maybe run a little bit more controlling on these sort of press conferences, because it's kind of boring to see managers ask the same silly questions over and over and over again, so you can bait out headlines, but that's their prerogative to do what they want with. But yeah, I think that there's things he shouldn't be answering, frankly. Not because he's wrong or because I would care, but because, fans lose their minds about pretty much everything these days. But, it's one of those things where you say, Ten Hag was a liar, Amram's too honest. We'll just go back and forth all the time. Ten Hag used to just go, we play young players, stuff like that. I don't know. And then go sign them for SEG and sell them for a profit. But, words matter. I guess words are more important than actions at the end of the day, right? But yeah, look, but I do want to say this more debatably, whether he's right or wrong, about it and whatever you feel about it, this is my thoughts on it. I do think he revealed something, though. I do think he revealed something. Okay, and I'm gonna bring you back. It's not silly questions. They are silly questions because they're intended to bait. What's the reality? Why are Cheeto, Amas, and Collier not here and not playing with the first team right now? Because Amram essentially did sort of reveal a little bit of his hand while answering that. The answer is because they're not good enough. Now, here's the really funny part about the quote. If you're good enough, you're old enough. People kind of forget about those first few words. If you are good enough, okay? That's actually the question, right? That's a part of the quote. If you're good enough, you're old enough, okay? That whole quote. The idea is you still have to be good enough. Where I think Ruben has revealed his hand is that those are not players that he rates as ready for the first team. Those are not players he feels are good enough for United. That's why they're not here, right? For one reason or another, that's why he name-checked those players. Even though he didn't intend to, because maybe he didn't say anything about it, I actually took it to be a pretty solid statement of he doesn't rate those players. That's how I took it as. Again, not saying right or wrong, but he took it as, I took it as that. He doesn't rate those guys. He didn't name check like Lacey. He didn't name check Fletcher. He didn't name check, he didn't even mention Cobby there, right? He didn't mention any of those guys. He mentioned guys that I think he doesn't feel are going to make it at United, which could be fair. But we've talked about some of this stuff with youth recently, because first of all, I've tried to explain, and look, again, you guys can actually and completely have your own opinions on all of this, and it's totally fine. I very much understand why his quotes bothered people on this, and I'm not going to tell people they're wrong for being bothered by it. People prefer different things in this sense, and that's fine. But what I will say for sure that I've explained a lot recently is that the view on the academy from the hierarchy, Obi's not on loan, from the hierarchy, from Ruben, from Sir Jim, from Ineos, is not the same as how fans view the academy right now. Whether they're right or wrong, I have explained this in recent times, because a month ago, Sir Jim went on a podcast and said the academy was slipping. And yes, to a degree, he talked about sorry guys, I'm just, again, lack of sleep. The infrastructure, the the buildings, the things like that, right? But he also very specifically called out the idea that it has not produced enough first-team talent for United. Okay? They've already revealed their hand on the way that they view the academy. They've already revealed their hand on the way they view the way that the academy has been for some time. Not now, not what they're trying to do with it, but the way that it has been. They've already revealed their hand on that in terms of, that it hasn't been up to snuff in their eyes. Okay? Already been said. We already know they see it that way. But I realized this today while I was driving back from somewhere, something else. Do you guys remember, if you're here, do you guys remember, oh shit, the lineup is about to come out. Let me do the lineup's coming out. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's a 3-4-3 as expected. Because the 4-3-3 is a solution to when Ahmad is out. We'll talk about that in a second. I'll finish this train of thought and then we'll talk about the lineup. Okay? Sorry. The lineup is it unchanged? The hell? My app's broken. All right, hold on, guys. Sorry, let me fill the lineup in really quick. No, it's unchanged. No. Mount's in the team, isn't he? Here. Let me do the lineup really quick. But then I want to talk about this academy thing a minute ago. Yeah, the 4-3-3 thing was very good bait. I gotta admit. Very good bait. I'm just telling. Yeah. Maz for Euro, yes. But then did Mount start? Yeah, Mount start. So it's Euro in for Mazraoui. That's it, because Mazraoui's on AFCON. Otherwise, the same team. So yeah, that's the team right now. Let me just. That's pretty funny. Kind of what was expected. All right. Šeško is on the bench. Yes, Šeško is on the bench. All right, let me finish my train of thought. And then I'm going to come back to the squad, okay? Because I really don't want to forget what I was about to say, all right? Because it's important. It's very, very important. Do you guys remember, like 3-4 weeks ago, is Fredrickson in the squad? He hates the youth. We were just talking about that. Fredrickson, yeah, and Mbeumo on the bench. All right, so there's your two academy players there. Fredrickson is in the squad. He hates him. He hates them youths. He hates them youths. Anyway, but anyway, look. And Heaven starting again. No. 4-3 was definitely for AFCON, but let me get back to it. Okay, all right. Sorry, guys. I'm getting really distracted. Let me finish my train of thought. Amorim does reveal things. Even when he mentioned those players, he did reveal something. And I'm going to leave you on this discussion with something to think about. Okay? And then we're going to go to the team. And I'm not going to spend time on it because I don't want to sit there on here and like be attacking youth or something. But I'm just going to reveal something very obvious. About, I think it was November 18 or 19th, Ruben Amorim did an interview. And we covered it. And they talked about his comments on the youth at that time because he said some really, really interesting things. Okay? He said some really, really interesting things. What he said was, you remember he made these comments about how there are players who come up, they play a game, and they think they've made it. They'll come into the first team, they'll play a game, and they think they've made it. And they think it's all there. And there's the attitude, and there's the issues that we've had here. This was about 4 weeks ago. Okay? I tried to find the quotes again, but it's annoying to try and find them because when you search for something, all you get is all the clamor over the quotes from yesterday. But I remember we did a video on this back in November talking about, on a live, sitting there talking about Ruben Amorim, and he made these comments about the youth. And he was talking about how at the academy level, we're trying to change the culture with the academy because you get players who come up, play a game, they think they've made it. They think it's all done. And he kept talking about how the hard work is the most important thing. And he kept talking about that. Now, right or wrong, after his comments, a lot of people thought he was maybe referring to Mbeumo at the time or Garnacho. But that didn't really make sense. It was a bit of a stretch, right? Because you're talking about two players that they didn't play one game at the senior level. They're established as senior players. Mbeumo started 15 games in under Ruben last year. Garnacho started like 20. So it didn't really refer to them, although, culture, right? But you know who it would have referred to? Collier, Cheeto, and Harry Amaz, who all played just a few games. And I think that it was very revealing now that he named them today, that that's who he was referring to previously. Because two of them, even since then, are already posting on socials stories to journalists about sources close to the players are disappointed in the comments and upset by it and things like that. I'm not going to go in on players and young players and things like that, though I have said for years, stop posting on social media, you fools. Stop posting on social media, you fools, okay? But yeah, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's revealing that he said that. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying that I'm saying it. I'm saying it's revealing to me that he name-checked those players based on his comments from 4 weeks ago and the reaction to it. It's very, very revealing. Very, very revealing. Honestly, that's who he's talking about. Right or wrong. And I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to go in on the kids and things like that. Only advice I can give anybody is to stay off social media. But I'm not going to go in on the kids or anything like that either. I'm just saying it's very obvious Ruben is talking about certain players and things like that. I think that's clear. All right, let's look at the team. Should have taken the James approach comment. Yeah, probably. Maybe should have said anything. So it's funny because this is the team. So we were talking last week. I don't know if you guys remember, but we were talking last week about how someone was saying, just play a 4-3-3. It's so simple, right? And we were talking last week about how funny it was because I think what people don't necessarily realize about this is that it's very, very dramatic to call what he said slander, to say that the word struggling, once again, I'm saying he didn't actually criticize or insult anybody. It's not slander. No, but look, I was mentioning the last time we talked that if you switch to a 4-4-3, a 4-4-3, sorry, I'm Todd Bowleying here. If you switch to a 4-3-3, all you're actually doing, by the way, is dropping Ahmad for a midfielder. Ready? That's it. There's your 4-3-3. Okay? That's all you're doing, is you dropping Ahmad for a midfielder. We were just talking about this last week, that's a 4-3-3. You drop Ahmad for a midfielder, and suddenly it becomes a 4-3-3, because in possession, what happens, right? It's the same. It's the same everywhere. Center back drops back, and it's a 3-4-3, except you have two midfielders instead of Ahmad, or you can have an inverted wingback or whatever, right? It's all the same every single time, no matter what you do. The the switch to a potential 4-3-3, is kind of hilarious because the clamor, like I say, the clamor for it. I'm one of the things that's amusing is I've seen a lot of takes like, why would we switch to a 4-3-3 when the wingers are gone? Well, because our two best players are both right wingers right now. Okay. So if you take this out and you put Cobby here because you don't have the midfielders to play, then that's it. It's the same 3-4-3, but you're just going with a midfielder here. It's the same it's the same setup as before. But you're going with three midfielders so that your fullbacks don't have to do quite as much work and your wide players can go out a little bit. But yeah, this was always the thing. This is the 4-3-3. If we wanted to go to a 4-3-3, this would be it. The solution to AFCON, because we don't have wingbacks, is to do this, right? That's it. That's the answer. Now, one of the things here is that what was I gonna say? Oh, one of the things he's very clearly realized in wanting to try something different is this, right? Because we were kind of talking about this, like when Ahmad leaves, if you look at the team, if you don't do this, then you have to run this, right? If you don't change something, you have to run this. And one of the things that, to me, he's very, very obviously realized is that playing two fullbacks sucks, right? Playing two fullbacks really, really sucks. Okay? It sucks. It's unfortunate because we know this doesn't work. We've seen it a bunch of times, right? We've seen him try this without Ahmad. We're terrible. And I think he's realized that, and that's why he's trying to do it. He's trying to find a different solution because we don't have wingbacks. We don't have wingbacks, right? We don't have wingbacks without Ahmad. We just don't. We're kind of screwed. So this would be bad. You don't have enough pace. You have two defensive fullbacks. It becomes defensive too quickly. So you say, all right, fine. Instead of doing that, we're going to put another midfielder on the pitch. Okay? Instead of doing that, so we don't need, the same up and down from the back. We'll swap it around a little bit. And we'll go with a midfielder so that we don't have to go with that. And again, in game, it's going to look really, really similar because in a 4 at the back, the center back will drop, the fullbacks will go wide, and you'll have a 2 in the middle, and it'll look pretty similar. But it gives you just a little bit more flexibility. And so it makes sense to me. But again, here's what I find funny, and I'm just going to show it one more time for the ease of demonstration, okay? The whole 4-3-3 thing. And that's fair, right? I get that some people really, really like it, right? This is the 3-4-3. Okay. All right. Let's put the players, and I'll keep Mbeumo out because it doesn't really matter in this respect. Okay. To go to a 4-3-3, you would have these as your attacking 6. Okay, for a 3-1-6. Okay, this is your attacking 6. If you look at our shape against Wolves, where are you? Who are you? There you go. 3-1-6, right? Here, 3-1-6. 3-1-6. Okay, these are your attacking 6. Dalot, Cunha, Šeško, Mount, Ahmad. Here's your 3-1. Here's your attacking 6 when you switch to a 4-3-3. It's pretty much the same thing. Oops, I moved somebody in the wrong spot. It's the same, essentially. What the hell's going on here? You know? That's not going to be like that. You're going to have Mbeumo. No, that's why I'm getting confused. There we go. It's going to be like this. Okay, there's your 3-1-6. Okay, you're going to have your partner in the midfield be deeper. There we go. I got it right. I'm sorry. I got confused. I confused myself. You have a less attacking lineup by swapping it to this team than you do with Ahmad. It's literally taking Ahmad out and moving Dalot forward. You understand the difference here? Except it would be Shaw like this. That's the difference. You're swapping. It's the same in that what I'm saying is that it's not more attacking to go for a 4-3-3, because I think people have the idea that this 3 at the back is so defensive. You know what I'm saying? It's so defensive. It's so, bad. But if you look at the attack, you have 5 forwards and 1 fullback attacking. If you go to a 4-3-3, I'll show it again, okay? If you go to a 4-3-3, you end up with 4 attackers and 2 fullbacks attacking, because it is a 3-1-6. 4-3 doesn't mean a DM goes in the back line, but it does. Nobody attacks with 7 players. That's my point. My point is, what is not necessarily being understood here is, nobody attacks with 7 players. 3-1-6 is it. And then you maybe get a random late arrival or something like that. It doesn't really make a difference. It's going to have fewer attackers. Maybe it does give us more control in the middle, though. You know what I mean? That would be nice if we got a little bit of control in the middle of the pitch. But the thing is, we've done Bruno, Casemiro, Mbeumo before. It doesn't offer us more control, because all you've done is taken 2 who can't control the midfield and added a third one in who doesn't match their traits. They both want to launch the ball immediately. Kobe wants to dribble, right? So, yeah, you have another player in the center, and then you're weak out wide. We don't have wingers for the 1v1s, we don't have that anyway. Then you end up defensively weaker out wide. There's differences in both ways that you can do it. And either way, you're having the 10s drop into the spaces and things like that. In many ways, our team is less suited to a 4-3-3 than it is to this current system. And then it'll be, well, yeah, because he forced out all the wingers because he hates the academy or something like that. But again, I'm not that's just where the conversation ends up going in circles and things like that. You know what I mean? But look, like if you actually look at this is why I do find this kind of funny. The whole thing about the systems and the setups and yada yada and things like that. What I do find kind of funny is that if you look at our squad and you look at how we want to attack, this is where Cunha should be. That's where he plays best. He's not a wide player. This is where Mount should be. It's where he plays best. He's not a wide player. This is where Bruno should be, attacking right in the center. Right there, exactly there, where he was. Sorry, that's Casemiro. This is Bruno. There you go. Sorry, going that way. Exactly where you want him to be. That's where he should be. This is actually closer to everybody's preferred zone than the alternative. So, I don't know, man. I actually think what's funny is that we are almost too attacking. So maybe it will work better, because defensively we still kind of stink sometimes. Defensively we still kind of stink sometimes. So maybe we are too attacking. Maybe we should switch it. Go more defensive. Maybe I should suggest that next. That'll get people's heart pumping. That we go more defensive. Even the academy, lots of center mids and 10s were the wingers. Because wingers don't exist anymore. Like, I don't know if people have realized that, but wingers is out of style. Wingers went out of style very recently for a while. It's not just a United problem. You know, traditional wingers are not, like, there anymore. Traditional wingers aren't really a thing. Why Malacia on the bench over Lacey? All right. How many fullbacks do we have on the bench? Now, because Mazraoui is gone. It's not that hard, guys. It's not that hard. Not everything is this crazy conspiracy. We lose a wing back. We lose a fullback. We lose fullback coverage, and a fullback comes into the squad. It's not that complicated. We've only got one fullback on the bench, and that's Patrick Dorgu. So we're missing someone. Mazraoui leaves the squad, and a fullback comes back into the squad. It's really, really, really simple. It's really simple. So many things can be explained by the blatantly obvious. But yeah, wingers don't exist that much anymore. Wide players in general are kind of weak right now, I think. Wide players kind of have gone out of style. Yeah, we have very few wingers in the academy. There's very few wingers in football. You know, Daku is like one of the last traditional ones. Ahmad, sort of. Mbeumo, sort of. You know?
Boss, gonna start the daily Semenyo percent. Day 1. What's the percent today?
25%. Let's see if a little bit of a hug after the game, because Ruben's been talking him up. Yes, exactly that, Lucky. Okay. We lose a fullback. We lose a fullback who is also a center back, and De Ligt and Maguire are still not there. So we have to promote 2 defenders. It's just the simplicity of where we are at. No, PSG have all the damn good wide players. You're totally right about that. PSG have like all the really, really good wide players. If you look at our bench, left back, center back, left back, center back, midfielder, 2 strikers. Who gets dropped? You know, it's quite balanced. We have 2 mids, 2 forwards, and 4 defenders. That makes sense for a team, and 1 goalkeeper. That means we have somebody for basically 2 players for each zone. 2 wide defenders, 2 central defenders, 2 midfielders, 2 forwards. It is a balanced bench. That's the reality of it. Can you lend some sanity to the fanmates with their take on Amram comment? Seems like everyone's hellbent on going to civil war versus anime. It's fine. I commented on it like about 20 minutes ago, I think. Right before the other thing. Right before the teams, like 5 to 10 minutes before that. I spoke about it for a bit. If you didn't see that, if you can rewind, because I don't want to get into it too much again. Yeah. So, yeah. Shaw can't play fullback. He keeps talking about how, or wingback anyway. He keeps talking about how
25% based on info, boss. I see scammer him glazing him.
He is glazing him. He is. But, oh yeah, we'll talk about the Bournemouth players too, because there's 4 I know of that we're watching. Shaw can't play wingback, he said. Yeah. Formation is meaningless. It's actually a philosophical concept that I like. Yeah, formation is meaningless. I love formation not existing. I think formation doesn't exist at all. You know, I don't think it exists. It's really about zones and where people play. Thanks, Satyajit. But yeah, look, Bournemouth players. We're getting more on Tyler Adams. You know what's funny is like there are moments in life supporting United. I don't know how this has happened in recent years, where things that I tend to like that a lot of people hate. I feel like I'm getting lucky. Like someone is like picking things. Is like picking things that I like, which is dangerous, because I may have terrible opinions sometimes. You know what I mean? I might. But yeah, Tyler Adams, even Fabrizio commenting on it now. I do think there's a little bit of agent play at work here driving it up, but the interest would be there. Definitely, it seems. I think he would make a good Ugarte replacement at the right price, a very, very good one. He's full on defensive 6, but he's much more disciplined and he's pretty good dribbling the ball and pressure and things. He's quite physical as well, so I think he'd make for a good backup 6. Okay, but then there's Alex Scott. Yeah, Adams is average, but that's an upgrade on things sometimes. Sometimes average is okay for squad players. Alex Scott, interesting one. Obviously, Semenyo. And then as I did mention before, I believe Truffat is somebody that we've looked at as well. I'd rather Gomez. Me too. I think Gomez is the better player, but Adams is all right. I think he could do the job pretty well. Do you have any indication that Semenyo is open to playing wingback? I don't know. But I think he could play all the positions, so it doesn't really matter to me. That's what Emram keeps saying, right? He's 2-footed. He can play all both sides and things like that when he's glazing him. You know what I mean? So, yeah. All sides, everywhere. But yeah, Semenyo's obviously. Let's see. Let's hope it's like Wharton. I was impressed with Wharton when we played against him, but we still won. Let's hope with that Semenyo today because it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So that Semenyo, if he's playing off of the left, going up against Ahmad and Lenny, they've got a job. They got a job to do. But yeah, it'll be an interesting game. It'll be an interesting game for sure. As a reminder, I'll be over on Big Up in like 40 minutes for the game. You can go in and get your picks in for the game. These are my selections that I made. Yeah, the link is below to that. So you can go play the game over there, but otherwise you can just come join me for the watch along in 40 minutes as well. Semenyo's going to Liverpool, so obvious. You think so? Why? I mean, maybe he will. I'm not saying he won't. Obviously, we know all the talk that's been there about him going to Liverpool. I don't know, man. Ruben asked if the formation is 3-4-3, 4-3-3. You can find out when the game starts, and you can see the lineup is the same. He just loves to answer these questions in ways. I honestly think Ruben gets a kick out of just answering stupid questions. just to like rile people up for continuing to ask them. I don't know, man. For me, I think it's hilarious, but it does remind me of Jose, which I think he's obviously taken a bit out of. I like a certain type, and that is what it is, you know. I get it's not for everybody. I see that people have melted down about the whole thing about Lacey not being there when it's, you know, what Fredrickson is, which of course doesn't get. I don't know, man. Pretty funny. You can see certain reporters who are very clearly tied to youth academy, youth agents. I'm not talking about accounts. I'm talking about certain reporters. I actually think it's pretty funny, to be honest. When Amram gets sacked, I'm going to go throw a party in his chat. Good for you. You're going to have to wait a while, though. Gonna have to wait a while. Gonna have to wait a bit. All right, let's see. Where are we at? So yeah, the game kicks off at about 45 minutes. What else are we looking at? What else did I want to discuss? Yeah, so I've covered the Amarim comments. Just a quick recap. Like I said there, I understand why it bothers people. I do. But I also think it was very revealing in conjunction with comments he made about 4 weeks ago about the academy, about the culture and things like that. And as well tied in with Sir Jim's comments and all of that. I think it's not particularly surprising. And like I said, look, people may not like it or agree with it, and that's fair enough, for sure. But the obvious feeling from Ruben as well as Ineos and the hierarchy above Wilcox, etc., is that there is something that isn't good there that they're fixing. I'm not trying to pin that on anybody or anyone, or even that it's not improved, but that there is something off. And the thing with Ruben, I guess I would say, if you want to look into it a little bit, is that he is overly honest. So even when he says something, whenever he says something, even if there's a reason he says it if he says it, right? Like 4 weeks ago when he said players come in, they play a game, and then they think they've made it and they have the wrong attitude, things like that. Well, he would say that because it's happened. And the only players that he could be referring to, it seems, are the players that he essentially name dropped and said, I played them last year. We didn't win. Anyway, they're not here right now. It seems pretty obvious to me. So again, whatever. You can take that as a big negative. Fair enough. Understood. You can take it as whatever you want. I mean, but I don't want to hear it from the standards crowds. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear it from people talking about high standards and things like that. That whenever we, there's too much hypocrisy. It's certainly well and good. Some people really, really don't like those comments. Fair enough. Like I said, I think maybe he shouldn't answer any questions, but that's me. I've maintained that for all managers. I said the same thing for Ten Hag. That's why I stopped listening to press conferences. That's why I stopped listening to them in general, because it's like, Ollie's too nice. Ten Hag's a bullshit artist. Well, he is, but in press conferences, I don't care. Amram's too honest, says things he shouldn't say. I genuinely don't care anymore. But I also think that, I was getting really irritated last year when it was a constant clamor over the Rashford comments because he couldn't answer the question. That's one where he couldn't actually answer it honestly. And it ended up just turning into a huge agenda one way or another and just getting stupid in terms of the commentary. I don't even know what the point of them is anymore, to be quite honest, But I would rather not listen to them at all. Why does he not call out the senior scam artists? Didn't he? Didn't he say 2 weeks ago that Dorgu was not confident at the moment? Didn't he say that Dowlow was not at his best right now? And hasn't he spoken about, he said the same thing about Lenny. He spoke about De Ligt 2 weeks ago and said that he needs to be braver with his passing. Here's the thing about Ruben, all right, that I think why I think it's very hypocritical, the way that the reaction goes. I think people are being incredibly soft because they're taking the idea that any comment on a player is some horrible thing that cannot be forgiven. Some awful thing, some horrid thing, some crime against humanity to mention a player. But Ruben has spoken about what every single player has to improve or has to do over the course of his time here. Seniors, All of them. He's talked about Casemiro and said he was shit at some point in time. He's spoken about everybody. The point being, it's not that much drama, right? It's not that dramatic. He's factually criticized most of the senior squad. He didn't even criticize the academy players. Okay? Pep Guardiola, he called Grealish and Phillips fat and talked about Nunez in different ways and things like that. You know what I mean? He's actively criticized the senior players. But I think the point here is that that's just his style of management, is to be very blunt about it. All right, goodbye. Is to be very direct about it. And the fact of the matter is his feeling is very clearly they should be able to handle that. You know? And most of them have responded to it. But people are so sensitive about these comments now. So sensitive about these comments now that everything that is said is taken as this unforgivable act, unforgivable crime. You will even recall when Cheeto played last year that Ruben had comments that where he said that Cheeto was young and needed to learn to play with his body better. Maresca was speaking about half of that Chelsea squad last year, saying that they were shit, this, that, the other, attitude issues, all sorts of things. He's done it many times this year. It's certainly a modern manager thing where they just comment on what the player did, on what a player did wrong, on what X player did wrong, on what this player did wrong, and they just answer the questions honestly. And the expectation is that a player isn't going to gasp and pearl clutch because their manager mentioned something maybe they didn't do right. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. It's not that big of a deal. You know? It's not. They're just words. They're just minor critiqued. Pep said Foden didn't play well. Oh my God. He's shitting on the academy players. It's everybody. He's like I said, it's not like he's commented on everybody, but a lot of people, Emery called his team lazy a few weeks back. Right. They all do it, man. They all fucking do it, right? They all do it. And it's not that big of a deal, but you're going to have people with different perspectives. There's a lot of people who believe now that any criticism of a player is terrible, it's awful, and it's throwing them under the bus. Anytime you mention something that was wrong or something that didn't happen, that it's chucking them in front of the bus, you know? But it's not. Some players need motivation in different ways. Some players respond to it. Some players don't, things like that. Who knows? They're just management styles. They're just different styles of management. And a lot of them have it that way, and a lot of them do it a different way. It is what it is in that respect, and we just have to accept that's the reality of it. It doesn't seem to be hurting the senior players. You know, Ten Hag, for example, I'll give you an example of the reverse. Okay, I'll give you the example of the reverse. And the reason you bring up Ten Hag is because we've had two different managers. That's it. Okay, if you read those articles from The Athletic about Ten Hag, for example, who didn't really criticize players in his press conferences. If you read those articles, Rafael Varane would say Ten Hag never told him why he was benched. Never told him anything. Never told him what he was doing wrong. Never said anything. Casemiro said the same thing, and he went to Brazilian reporters and put out a story before the FA Cup, if you all remember that. Okay? And they said the same thing. Ten Hag would never tell them what they did wrong. They would just stop playing. So that's one management style. Don't tell anybody anything. Don't criticize. Don't do anything like that. Don't say anything about people. Just bench them without explanation. And then there's the alternative where you have somebody who mentions when people do something screwed up, or mentions when someone messes up, or mentions any of these things. You know, it is what it is. It's different. They're just different management styles. Now, which one do you think the players like more? That's the only one that matters, not you and not me. All that matters is what they think in that senior dressing room, what works best for them. What gets the most out of them is all that matters, right, in terms of style. Do we have the answer to that? No. Right, Ten Hag certainly criticized Sancho, sure, yeah, fair enough, right? Emery, when Villa were bottom 3, Emery called the team lazy. They responded with 10 wins, right? So it's a manager's job to do what they've got to do to get the most out of his team. Here you go. I'll pull this up. September 22nd. Here you go. Ready? This is really funny, too, because you get the media running the same bullshit. Match of the day, pundit Shay Given believes it was a risk for Aston Villa boss Unai Emery to call his players lazy after their 1-1 draw with Sunderland on Sunday. We were lazy sometimes in defense. When we conceded, we were lazy. And Shay, the expert, said, you can say that behind closed doors, but when you say it in the press, players can take it the wrong way. And what's happened since then? They're in the fucking top 3. They've won 10 games in a row. So what the fuck do you know about what is successful and what isn't? You don't know. Clearly, it was okay that he said it publicly. Maybe it woke him up. It's like, this is what happens, man. But people will make assumptions based on shit like that. You just don't know. You don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter what you or I think and what our management style would be. It doesn't. And that's why I say time and time again, every single week, all I care about is what happens on the pitch. Do we play better? Do we win games? That's it. Because that tells you whether you're right or wrong in the way that you act. Is the results and nothing else. If you win and you get better, then you've done it right. And if you lose, then you're wrong. And it's that simple. That's it. That's it. That's the only answer. Nothing else. Did I read the article about Ollie in the Daily Mail? Which one, if you could mention that? What was the catalyst as to why they started performing? Who cares? The point is, it didn't stop them from winning. It didn't stop them from winning. I'm not saying that they started winning because he criticized them and called them lazy, but it certainly didn't stop them from winning. They climbed from relegation to top 3 in the months since then. So clearly it didn't stop them from winning. That's the point. That's why all I give a shit about is what happens on the pitch. Nothing else. If we're winning, it's right. If we're losing, it's bad. If we're climbing the table, if we're seeing progress, then the right things are happening. This lot will get me sacked, Ali had said to his staff about his players on more than one occasion, and he was right. Yeah. Same players that Jose called out, by the way, because it was talking about Pogba and Martial, the start of Player FC. Same players mentioned in that article, if that's the one you're referring to. Same players. Maybe Ruben just doesn't care about a lot of these guys knowing they're leaving, so no need to back them publicly. There's that too. Yeah. Pogba and Martial, the same guys that Jose lost his job over. The beginning of Player FC. My least favorite camps. And I was a big Pogba fan. But I've said this many times on video. I felt the day that the club went with Pogba over Jose and he got sacked after that whole kerfluffle between them was a huge death knell for the culture in our team. Because Pogba and Martial were able to force out a player, force out a manager. And the club backed it and they gave them all that power. And that was one of the worst days that the club has seen post Sir Alex, culture-wise. and we haven't recovered from it. Maybe we're on our way now, because I don't think player power exists within the club today. It does in the fan base still, but it doesn't with the team. But yeah, look, all of this stuff, you know, you can have whatever opinions you want on it. You can disagree with me. It's totally fine. I could be totally wrong. I could be completely wrong. In fact, I don't even want to take an opinion or a stance on whether Amram's right or wrong to criticize, because I don't know. I don't know. I know that it's clearly his style. Clearly it's his style. Clearly. Right or wrong, I don't know. All I care about is what happens on the pitch. If we're getting better and winning games, I'm happy. If we're not, then I'm not happy. That's it. Other than that, people are going to have millions and millions and millions of different opinions. People are going to have tons of different thoughts. People are going to have tons of different ideas. People are going to have, you're going to get every opinion under the sun from people. Doesn't matter. It's all just opinions. You feel free to have them. And I won't hate you for having them at all. Nor say you're wrong either. But what happens on the pitch matters. Ole never said, yeah, Ole protected them heavily and they sacked him. They screwed him over. They gave up on him. Pogba went and got that red card against Liverpool. I'll never forget that. He did that shit on purpose. He 100% did that shit on purpose. That red card against Liverpool. Clear as day. That was the most downed tools moment I have seen at United in 10 years. It was active mutiny. 100%. He wanted that red card. But look, I'm not surprised by the drama now, because you watch the results of the weekend. Arsenal versus Wolves. Give me a break, man. Like, you watch all of these things. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's see who wins. We need to win today. If we lose, if we can't put in a good performance, then obviously Amarim hasn't done his job well enough, because we should be winning today. That's it. That's all I care about, But regardless, that's all that's going to determine whether he keeps his job in the long run too. So who cares? Okay. All right. I'm going to head out now so I can get ready for the live, for the watch along over there. Once again, you can use the link below to come and join me and get your picks in and all of that. But you can also use the link below to come join me on Big Up Over in like 20 minutes. But yes, I'll be there. So use the link below to get your picks in, and then come join me for the watch along in just a little bit, and I will see you all soon. Okay, thanks for hanging out today. Hopefully we get a win. I'll see you back here after the game for the post-match thoughts, interviews, things like that, and the rest. All right, have a good one, everybody. Enjoy the game. Hopefully a good one for us. Hopefully a win, and I will see you later. All right, have a good one, guys. Goodbye.